All right, what's up, kids? Tom Clark here for a brand new podcast. If you know me, then you're probably familiar with my shows. This is a little bit different format, something out of the norm for me, not out of my comfort zone, however, but definitely out of the norm from maybe from what you're used to. If you know Tom Clark's Main Event, you also know Tom Clark's 6M Podcast. Those are the two shows that I do pretty much on the regular. This will be a brand new third show. And in case you're wondering what this show is going to be called, I'm glad you asked. This is going to be called Two Nations Under Ted, as if the Ted Lasso graphic didn't give it away for you. This is going to be a brand new podcast, 34 episodes total, perhaps another one or two as an intro and outro. We'll see. We'll get there. But of course, it's a Ted Lasso podcast. You know why? Because there just aren't enough. Okay? So we're going to add one more to the pile. Again, if you guys know me, what's up? Good to see you again. But I'm going to go around the horn now and let you guys meet the other two co-hosts that we've got here on the show. Let's start with Joe. Joe, I don't know a lot about you, my friend. We just met, so fill the good people in on who you are and your background and what you're working on at the moment.
I'm Joe. I currently work on a podcast called Hallmark of Greatness, where we watch and dissect Hallmark and sort of made-for-TV films, because there's something oddly nice and familiar about them, even though they are possibly the worst films ever made. And it's just a lot of fun. And we're doing Junemas now, which is half Christmas, because most Hallmark films are Christmas films. And yeah, that's that. I also do a wrestling podcast called Dammit, Vince, but I don't want to steal your thunder on that one. And I came to Ted Lasso. A friend of mine was like, "You need to watch this. You'll love it." And I was like, "It's about football. I don't care about sports, real sports, wrestling not included."
Right.
And he was like, "Yeah, but it's got these people in it, X, Y, and Z." And I was like, "Oh, okay, I'll give it a watch." And me and my wife put it on. And from that first episode, there's a line that Ted says where they're on the plane over, and him and Beard are talking, and he apologizes to Beard for an argument that they've had, just in case they meet in their dreams. He doesn't want it to be weird. And I was like,
good.
This is it. Yeah, I found my show now, because it was just such a beautiful, and it's like an off the cuff line, but it was just one of those things that I thought, this could be something special, because it's got comedy in it, but it also has pathos and heart and sort of well-rounded, developed characters who have their own dreams and goals and ideas, which is odd for a comedy show nowadays.
It is. I mean, and I like the way you said it, heart with humor. Like, one of the things that to me has always made the Flash TV show special is because they're very basic ethos. They've actually put up on a grease board, from my understanding. Every time when they went into to film a show was heart, humor, and spectacle. That was it. And it was that as long as they followed that mantra, they felt like they were good. And honestly, that show stands out if you're a comic book fan, for sure. I love that explanation. That's great stuff. Speaking of being upstage and someone stealing thunder, let's talk about the other wrestling guy on here who's going to steal both of our thunder. Jay, tell the kids out there who you are and what you're working on.
I am Jay from the Untitled Wrestling Podcast. I've a sort of reoccurring guest slot on yours at the moment as well, on Tom Clark's Main Event. Hopefully that continues, because I'm having a lot of fun with that. Yeah, I first found this show because I had nothing else to watch. I'd just got Apple TV. I put it on because I like football. And it's very unfootball for a show about football. Also, I think, to kind of like add to what Joe was saying about the way it's written, you can tell it's kind of like co-written by a Brit and an American, because there's like the two sort of like crossing, like dissecting points of senses of humor. Obviously, British sense of humor is a bit more like almost surrealist at times and can be very dry. American stuff kind of a bit more like Ted, basically, isn't it? Like sometimes a little bit goofy, like sort of like one-liners, and it's just married together in such a nice way that it's just one of my favorite shows.
It's such a good show, man. I love it. Like, if I don't know if you had to get technical about the kind of humor that sets us apart. I mean, I guess you could say, of course, England default comparison would be Python. I'm a huge Python guy, but for the States, I guess it'd be Beavis and Butthead. We're more on the nose, in your face, knock jokes versus subtle, But I appreciate both sides.
I would say that Beavis and Butthead's not. I mean, you've got, Seinfeld and, other expertly written sort of observational comedies.
True.
But I get it. I think the British one is more like well observed, where Americans tend to be a bit more broad strokes with it. And that's not a bad thing, because, I love Brooklyn Nine-Nine. I love I prefer the American office to the British office.
Same.
Because it's funny. And the British one is kind of just cringy and awful. But it's horses for course, but I think Ted Lasso nails that brief of bringing both styles together, like Jay said, expertly well. And there's something in there for everyone. I mean, I don't know how. I'm fairly sure it's been very well received in America as well.
Oh, big time. Big time.
Yeah. Despite the fact that it is about a sport that isn't, one of your national pastimes.
Yeah, and honestly, I I'm sure it's like this everywhere you go, but because of social media, yeehaw. But everyone's sort of been lambasting the finale because, the two main characters should have ended up together. And I'm like, no, they shouldn't have. This was not a love relationship. This was a mutual respect and admiration relationship.
I got the fear in that last episode when he came downstairs and she was sat in the kitchen, and I was like, oh, have I missed an episode here? What's happening?
Right. Yeah.
And then Bird walks down in his thong, and I was like, oh, okay, it's fine. Like, something weird's happened, and it's going to get explained now. But yeah, I think Ted says in that last episode on his note on the draft of the book, he says the story was never about me. And that's even though the show is called Ted Lasso, he isn't there. He is just the agitator. He is the agent of chaos that comes in and makes everyone's life, bar one person's, better.
Yeah.
And that person whose life he makes worse deserves it anyway, because he's a bad person. And
he is a bad person.
But I didn't.
It'll be no holds barred when we actually start recording.
I know, but if I can try to, then
I was gonna say we can't quote anything that comes out of Roy Kent's mouth otherwise.
Oh, I know, right? Yeah, that would be a shame because he
every
is
other
fantastic.
word to swear.
I mean, we could beep it.
I'm sure you have, but if you've heard his normal speaking voice, he's very polite. He's got manners. He's very sweet. And then you hear him as Roy, and it's completely different. No. It's so good, man. His podcast is great.
Oh.
I didn't know he had a podcast.
I didn't know he had it, but that's something
that's getting added to the list.
Yeah.
Oh, take this down. Films to be buried with.
Okay.
And he had this show before he had Ted Lasso. So it's been going for a long time, and it's awesome. And basically, he'll have a guest on, and he'll give them a rundown. He'll tell them, you've died, you're dead. Now we're going to talk about what films meant the most to you. What was the film that scared you the most, that made you laugh, the film that you love, X, Y, and Z. And then what film would you be buried with in the end? You only got room for one DVD in the coffin. What would it be? It's a really good show.
That's such a horrible choice to make as well.
I know.
It's like
I've played
Desert
that game.
Island Discs, but evil.
It is like Desert Island Discs, but worse. Because at least with them you get, I think, 5, isn't it?
Yeah, and the concept of Desert Island Discs, for anyone who doesn't know, is just like you'd stranded on a desert island. You can pick 3 albums, is it, or 3 songs that you can listen to while you're there.
I think it's 5 pieces of music.
Yeah.
Oh.
And you can take a book. And all the squares take the Bible, and then like all the cool kids take like, I don't know, the Anarchist Cookbook
or something. Yeah.
Catcher in the Rye.
Just reading it.
Right.
No one over 30 reads Catcher in the Rye and goes, I'm fully behind what he's up to.
All of a sudden, I have an urge to go and kill John Lennon.
I know, right? Jeez.
There was more to that than that, but.
Is it like that over there that's required reading in your high school? Because it is in the States. No. It's required. It is required reading. Catcher in the Rye, The Outsiders. There's a Cut to Kill a Mockingbird. These books are on the list for every school. And I'm like, you got that on the list?
Yeah. To Kill a Mockingbird and Death of a Salesman were the 2 I studied.
We did To Kill a Mockingbird and Macbeth were mine, but I'm
we did. You usually do a Shakespearean one, don't you?
You do a Shakespeare and a modern.
Yeah.
But I think
I did Julius Caesar, not Macbeth.
Well, you're younger than me, so it's possible. But thing is, catching the rye when you're 15, you're like, yeah, Holden Caulfield, yeah, you're right on. And then as you read it as an adult, you go, stop being such a whiny little boy. Like your position on it shifts massively when you realize that the world doesn't work like that. Unfortunately,
yeah.
So
this is going to be fun. I can already tell. I like. I was a one-man show for years with the main event. It was just me and a microphone. I never went live. Then I decided to take it live, and I recorded some wrestlers over the years. The only people that ever been on the show, and then for whatever reason, I started having guests on, co-hosts, and now it's like now I love it. Now it's cool. You know what I mean? But like, this is going to be a fun show. And again, kids, does the world need another Ted Lasso podcast? Well, they're going to get one regardless. It'll be the only one that's got the three of us. So exactly. There you go.
And I think both sides of the Atlantic as well.
Absolutely. The two nations, that's where it comes from. Two nations under Ted, a Ted Lasso podcast. So be sure you look for it. It's coming soon. No, I don't have a date. Be patient. It'll be here eventually. But guys, this was fun. I appreciate your time, and I'm looking forward to getting started on the show here, man.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. I can't wait to revisit Ted.
Same here.
I think that's it. It's knowing how it finished. I need to go back and watch the start because there's a lot of stuff that I was like, oh, wait, I didn't pick up on that at the time.
Same here.
But there is a lot of little things that pay off throughout it, and it is genuinely one of those things that is funny. Made me think about things that I haven't thought about in a very long time, like my attitude towards other people, and also made me cry so very much. I mean, Jay knows for a fact that I cry literally at everything anyway. I was saying before, I remembered that scene in Guardians 3 where Rocket and his friends name each other at work.
Oh, so good.
Go and wash my face in the bathroom because I was sobbing like a little girl. And I don't know why it popped into my head, but it is that thing. But there is moments in Ted Lasso that are genuinely heartbreaking and also genuinely joyous.
Yeah.
And it's odd that anything makes me feel anything because I'm such a bitter old man.
If this show doesn't make you laugh, make you cry, make you cheer, you don't have a soul. That's just bottom line. Yeah. It's okay to have differing opinions of what you like to watch. It's all subjective, but I'm sticking to my guns on this one. I'm sorry. You don't feel anything if you don't feel this show. Again, kids, stay tuned. It'll be coming your way soon. Guys, thanks again. And folks, be on the lookout for, let's try it again, Two Nations Under Ted, a Ted Lasso podcast. Follow us on socials. We're getting set up now. Two Nations Pod on the Twitter machine, and everything else is coming shortly thereafter. We'll be here soon. We'll be back soon. Be sure to catch us when we are live. Thanks much, kids. See you next time.